Grace and peace be multiplied unto you. Today, we begin our English lesson on clauses. Clauses are the basic units of English grammar. Like every building has its basic units to be bricks or blocks, likewise, the basic unit of English grammar is a clause. Let's look at these two sentences. They often go to Italy. Sentence 1. They often go to Italy because they love the food. Sentence 2. We know that Hajj Muhammad Mohsen was a very kind man. Now, when you look critically at these two sentences, you find out that there are connective words or conjunction in each of them. So, for sentence 1, the connective word is because. And for sentence 2, the connective word or the conjunction is that. Now, when you take a critically look at sentence 1, you realize that it is contained or it is made up of two different sentences. The first one to be they often go to Italy, and then the second one to be they love the food. So the conjunction because combines sentence 1, which is they often go to Italy, and sentence 2, which is they love the food, to make a full sentence. And I read, they often go to Italy because they love the food. Now, let's look at the other sentence. We know that Haji Mohammed Mohsen was a very kind man. The connective word is that. And this connective word separates separates the sentence into two different parts. The first part is we know, and the second part is Hajj Muhammad was a very kind man. So the first part, which is we know, is different, and the second part, which is Hajj Muhammad was a very kind man, is also different. And these two sentences can stand on their own, but we can then combine them with the connective word that. And I read the following the full sentence. We know that Hajj Muhammad Mohsen was a very kind man. Okay. Now let's see what a clause means. A clause is a group of words that includes a subject, a verb, and forms a sentence or part of a sentence. Again, a clause is a group of words that includes a subject and a verb and forms a sentence or part of a sentence. So in other words, a clause is a subject and a predicate working together. We will see what a subject and a predicate means. In this example sentence, I took the dog to the park. The subject here is I, and the predicate is the verb is took, and the rest of the sentence is the dog to the park. So a clause, let's go back. A clause is a subject and a predicate working together. So in this example, we can see a subject, and we can see a predicate working together to form a meaningful sentence. And this is what we call a clause. A subject and a predicate working together. When there are two clauses, the clause that is dependent on another clause to make a complete sense is called subordinate or dependent clause. The principal clause can make a complete sense by itself. It does not have to depend on any other clause. Let's look at an example. We know that Hajj Muhammad Mohsin was a very kind man. The sentence contains two clauses. The first clause to be we know, and the second clause to be that Hajj Muhammad Mohsin was a very kind man. Of these two, the first one stands by itself, but the latter depends on the other clause, meaning that we know can stand on its own as a clause, but that Hajj Muhammad Mohsin was a very kind man cannot stand on its own because it doesn't make sense on its own. Therefore, one of the clauses becomes the principal clause and the other becomes the subordinate clause. So the principal clause is the clause that makes meaning on its own without the help of any other clause. But the subordinate clause is a clause that does not make sense or does not make meaning on its own when not supported by the principal clause. Let's look at an example. Now, read the sentences and find the dependent and principal clause. I know where he is. For example 1, the main clause is I know, and the subordinate clause is where he is. This is because I know can stand on its own, and where he is does not make meaning when read as this. Example 2. The pen that father gave to me is lost. The pen is the main clause. That father gave to me is lost is a subordinate clause. Example 3. He cannot do this unless you help him. He cannot do this is the main clause. Unless you help him is the subordinate clause. Example 4. Listen to what your teachers say. Listen to is the main clause. What your teachers say is the subordinate clause. Example 5. When you have finished your lessons, you can play games. You can play games is the main clause. When you have finished your lessons is a subordinate clause. Example 6. As he was kind, he used to help the poor people. So he used to help the poor people is the main clause, and as he was kind is the subordinate clause. Example 7. He woke up because he heard a sound in his room. He woke up is the main clause, because he heard a sound in his room is a subordinate clause. Now you can realize that subordinate clause always have connective words attached to them. Example: where, that, unless, what, when, as, and because. These words start subordinate clauses, and these words are the words that can help you identify which clause is a main clause and which clause is a subordinate clause. I have given some exercises, and I hope this tutorial video will help you solve or answer the exercises I have given to you. Have a nice day and enjoy your day. Bye bye.